Okay, so Sarah, we have a lot of listeners who are in college, who are starting out their career, who are trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, which admittedly I'm still trying to do too. But you are such, you're kind of revolutionary, I think, in that you've had so many firsts in your career, and you have obviously made your way in a man's world as, one of the top refs in the NFL. I think you were I was reading your Wikipedia last night about, first woman in a bowl game, first coach of this, or first female ref for the Super Bowl, and just everything that you've accomplished. Taking a quick step back is, what do you think has propelled you to the place you are today? Like, what is the Sarah Thomas secret? And what is the wisdom you would impart to other women and people, whether you want to be in the NFL, or you want to be a great business person, or you want to be an entrepreneur, or you want to be a referee? Like, what's your perspective?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a secret. I just have to take it back truly to my upbringing. And we were just raised that you don't make excuses. Once you start something, you don't quit. If something goes wrong, look in the mirror and try to figure it out. And then athletics, just the sports and the coaches that I was able to play with and play for, and just finding that grit and just never giving up. And my advice, I'm raising two young men right now, 20 and 17. Of course, I have a little daughter, but I tell them all the time, you be the best at whatever you're doing at that moment. Don't look too far into the future, and just don't go out and try to prove people wrong. Just prove to yourself you belong, and work your tail off.
I love that. I agree with that. Tell me, so you are, I believe, a softball player and a basketball player. Do I have that right?
That's right.
And then I read that you hated refs. So how did you end up becoming a referee?
Yeah, I did. I played softball starting at age 5, and I loved softball. Basketball paid my way through college. And the whole stumbling into me becoming an official was just by a fluke. I had gotten kicked out of a men's league that I'd been in for 3 years. And so I was on the phone with my brother. I just was sportless. Like I just didn't have anything to do, and I wanted to get back involved. And when I went into my first meeting with the officials, I was shocked that they got together. They talked about plays. They were challenging each other. And I jokingly say, if I'd known that the officials did that officiated my games, my perspective may have changed about them. But I fell in love with it. It was a way I could give back. I was like, I looked at Pee Wee games like I did my varsity games. I just thought if an official thought my game was any less than someone else's, it would make me mad. So I just gave back what I would want an official to have done when I was playing.
One of the things that I was reading about being an official is having the courage to make a call, which I thought was I had never thought about it. I was an athlete. I never really gave much thought to the officials, except when I felt that they like screwed up the call, or cost us the game. And how do you think about that position? Like, it's very high pressure. You are judged on your ability to pretty instantaneously see something, say something, call something. How do you think about that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's just the process you go through from when you start out all the way to your varsity games. Then if you're lucky enough to go on to the next level, and of course, really lucky to make it to the NFL. And it's just a process that you go through, because you've got to learn the rules. You've got to see when the play really is materially affected in a way that results in a foul. And so it's not only having the courage to throw it, that's our job, but it's then also the judgment and the courage when not to throw it.
I read, I think in the Independent, that you had a call, and I'm hoping you can tell us this story. It's like kind of a well-known story about you, but I'm not sure people who listen to this. But you made a call which cost you a job, and the player said, well, you got me, you kept me in the NFL. So can you tell us that story?
So the Senior Bowl is an all-star bowl game where the top recruits out of college are going to be playing. And so they also stick officials there that the NFL is looking at. And there was just a big concern about me working in Conference USA and it being considered a mid-level conference, that I wouldn't be able to keep up with the speed and agility of the Power 5 players. And lo and behold, there was a defensive end that jumped into the neutral zone before the ball was snapped, and I didn't flag him for offside. And then it got worse for me from an official's standpoint. He sacked the quarterback. So that kind of put the exclamation point on the concern of some of the supervisors in the NFL, rightfully so. And I didn't get into the NFL in 2014, and that year I went to a mini camp, and I went up to that player and I just told him, I said, you know what, you got me once, but you're not going to get me again. And I reminded him of that play, and I said, that kept me from getting into the NFL. And he said, well, that helped me get into the NFL. So I appreciate you not calling it. So yeah, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for somebody.
Yep. And did you feel like, was there a double standard for you, or was it harder for you to make your way in because you were a woman? Like sometimes I feel like I'm a female CEO. There aren't a whole lot of female CEOs. I don't really feel like there's a double standard. I just feel like it's harder to break in sometimes, and you just got to work your ass off and just brush it off and keep going. Like, do you feel like that in your world?
Just what you said. I don't feel like there's a double standard. I didn't really know that I had to work harder because I'm just a hard worker. And I think there was one interview where I was like, I want to be the first female in the NFL. How stupid of me, how ignorant, because I hadn't even worked it down in college yet. And I realized real quick that I better stay focused on what I'm doing that's in front of me. And by my work ethic and just what I'm doing out here, if the NFL takes notice and they call, I won't turn them down. But I just learned real quick. I did have to work. And I know, I guess it was 18 seasons that I worked high school and college before I went into the NFL. But there's some guys that work 38 seasons that never make it to the NFL. So there's not a double standard. I don't feel like in where I'm sitting, and you just have to work hard. I mean, success only comes before work at the dictionary, right? I mean, you got to work hard.
Yeah. I also think that's great advice also to the advice you give your boys, which is like, be great now. Like, don't be worrying about the job after this one. Like, be great now.
Yep. They're often asked, like, who's looking at you as far as colleges? I have a junior that's 6'5", and he's a catcher, and he's a phenomenal player. And then his brother is even as gifted, if not more, than he is, and he's a middle infielder. And everybody wants to ask him, who's looking at you? Who's recruiting you? Who's this? And I said, well, have y'all asked him how he's doing at college? And I just said, don't listen to all that rhetoric. Just work your tail off.
Keep your blinders on, work your tail off. And how do you get ready? Like, one of the things I think so interesting about your career is it's so visible, it's so fast, but it's also a pressure cooker of, you're performing in a very, very compressed 2-hour window. How do you get yourself ready for that? How do you make sure you're present on the field? Like, what's your process there?
I'm very superstitious. My pregame is like, the same thing over and over, rain day, right? I have that place before the game, Sunday mornings, that I get up, I do the same thing, take a shower, get ready, iron my uniform, listening to my playlist, and I just go, it's wheels up. And I walk down to the lobby, and we get on that bus, and I sit in the same spot on the bus every time and listen to my playlist on the way there. And then once I walk into the stadium, to the locker room, I hit another gear. And then when I walk out onto that field, I flip a switch and I become a different animal. But I just stay laser focused from the time I leave my home. That's one level. And then when I get to the city, that's another level. But all the prep work we do before I even leave, our test, our film study, scout plays, calls with the other crewmates or mentors. But yeah, it's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, and it's also like a ratcheting up of focus.
Yep.
Like by the time you set foot on the 50-yard line, you are ready to go.
Most definitely.
What's on your playlist?
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's some good stuff on there. Stuff I can't really share. A lot of AC/DC, little Eminem.
Okay. Oh, I
Uh,
like that. It's a
yeah,
pump up mix.
yeah. And then I've got Andra Day, that Rise Up. That song really hit me on Super Bowl Sunday. And yeah, it's a lot of yeah,
And
jams.
then how do you wind down?
Well, probably when I get home, really when I get on the plane after the game, we have all of the plays on a thumb drive, and I immediately go and look at the fouls that I called, and then maybe some suspect stuff I want to look at. Then I look at the entire game. But while I'm doing that, I do drink a glass of wine on the flight. And when I get home, I'm still so vamped up. I usually
Mm-hmm.
get home about 11:30, and I really can't fall asleep till about 1:30. So I'll
Yeah.
have a glass of wine, then I'll lay my head down.
That's so interesting. 'Cause you never, and maybe this is ignorant, but you don't realize how much prep you put going into every game, and then also how critical you must be of yourself coming out of it. Like, have you always been like that?
Yes. And I know that I've got a job to do. And people do ask me, they're like, what motivates you? And I go, me. And if you're not the one motivating yourself, you better check yourself at the door. It's got to start with you. But we are also graded. And a lot of people don't know that. I mean, every play in the NFL is graded. And, we want to make sure we get it right, because you start at 100 and there's no attaboys or attagirls where you can go up. So you definitely don't want to get any incorrects or dings. So it's reviewing the film, looking at your grades, and just starting with yourself.
I love that, Sarah. Tell me a little bit about, I also read that you had a really interesting mentorship. Like, you were mentored throughout your officiating career. Like, do you mentor people? Like, tell a little bit about the mentorship process.
Yeah, so my mentors in the world of officiating, none of them looked like me. They were all men, but they had walked this path before me. They had the wisdom, and you can find people that you can end up trusting, or you just have a connection, I guess. God gave the gift of discernment, I'd like to say. And yes, I am in turn doing it with several other officials that are aspiring just to be better. That's what I always tell them, just be better where you are. And there are some females that I am close with. And so it's fun to be the mentee and the mentor.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you think that mentorship ends? Like, are you still getting mentored? Like, you've made it to the pinnacle in your field. Like, well, two questions. One, do you still iron your uniform, or does somebody else do that at this point?
I iron my uniform because I'm afraid if someone else was to touch it, they would melt my numbers or do something to it. No. And I would,
You just won't have that.
yeah,
And did you choose your number 53, right?
I am 53.
53. Did you choose that number?
Yeah, I was 153 in the developmental program. My boys, their jerseys at the time, they were playing baseball, they were number 2. And so they wanted me to get number 2, but it had just been taken by another guy. And so 53 was there. And I was just like, just take the 1 off. I'll be 53. So that's how I got 53.
Okay, and it's 53 for life at this point.
That's right. I love it.
And still, and how many sets of uniforms do you have?
Oh, good gracious. A ton. A ton.
Like a closet full.
Like, I don't know if I could donate that. I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
they're
it
all
seems
in
to
it.
me like somebody's going to frame it soon. Like, one of those 53 is going to end up on a wall somewhere, which is cool.
Yes, it is. It's phenomenal. It's going to end up here on one of my walls at my house, but the uniform that I wore is on display in Canton at the NFL Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, amazing. All right, so we're already on the wall.
Well, I'm a mannequin, I believe.
Okay, all right, that's fine. That's fine. And when you think about, as you think about the NFL in general, and you think about, the officiating, like how does what are officials like? Do you guys have a lot of camaraderie? Are you judgy of one another? Like, you have peers and you don't have peers. Do you ever get to a game and you're like, oh shit, I'm reffing with that guy? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, we're on crew. We have crews, and I just have to be honest with you. We're like family. It's a chemistry, the camaraderie, like you were just saying. If you don't have that off the field, it will bleed over into the field. And everybody that has made it to the NFL that I've been blessed to work with, it is a profession, and we have a job to do, and we go out there and we get it done. But yeah, I still talk to my crew from last year, the year before, every year. I mean, and I'll talk to their wives. It's great. We're like family.
And you work together for a season. You're like a package.
This year was a little crazy with COVID, of course. They may throw you here or throw you there, but for the most part, you are with one crew.
Okay, got it. And what are you seeing for next season? Like, what are you excited for?
I pray that we are able to have in-person like training camps or mini camps to where we can go. I'm not sure about our clinics just yet, but definitely just excited to get back out on the field. And of course, if we were able to come together at the clinic, then we can all see each other, because last year everything was Zoom. Even our pre-games, we couldn't even see each other until we went to the stadium. So yeah, just being around the guys and just getting out there on the field.
And do you have a favorite team? Are you allowed to say that?
All 32.
You seem like no bullshit, Sarah Thomas. I like that about you. Like, she is not messing around. Is there any other, as a last question for you, like any other advice you would give people starting out and who want to be better and who are working on being present? Is there anything that you've done that you really feel grateful that you did?
Yeah, just learning this through this journey. If you're just aspiring and you're in that interview and they ask, where do you see yourself in 1 year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years in this company? Give them a canned answer, but don't tell them you want to be the CEO, because if you do, then all you want is that title. You don't even know if you're going to like working for them. And you'll do anything to get up that ladder of success. You will step on anybody's toes to get there, but I promise you, you will not have earned it the right way. And those toes you stepped on will be the backside you will kiss on the way down. Do it because you love it. Fall in love with what you're doing. You're going to hit some, not roadblocks, but speed bumps along the way, but just put them in your rearview mirror and look through that windshield and keep the pedal down.
Sarah Thomas, thank you so much. This was awesome. I wish you all the best. I can't wait to see you next season.
Thank you. I loved it. It was great.
All right. Have a great day.
Hey, you too.
Bye, Sarah.
Yeah.